right here is what keeps me coming back.
All right. What is going on everybody? Welcome back to Serious Angler Podcast, episode 150, the one we've been waiting for a long time. It's another milestone, another 50 episodes, and quite frankly, Andy, it's our first 50 together as co-host.
Yeah. I think I've only missed like 2 or 3 in that 50 span, so we're doing all right.
We're rolling. We're picking up steam. But as everyone knows, tonight we're having on Mr. Mark Rose, one of the legends of the sport. Really excited to talk to him, pick his brain, and you guys as well have opportunities to pick his brain and also have opportunities at winning a bunch of free stuff, including a signed jersey from Mr. Mark Rose, who he will be choosing the winner. So, Mark's favorite question is going to be the winner for that signed jersey. So make sure you guys get some good questions in for Mark, as well as Andy and I will be choosing some winners for the giveaway packs from Douglas, from Queen Tackle, from Angler, and Morgan Marine. So make sure you guys are active tonight, asking some engaging questions. It's going to be a fun night. It's going to be a party. I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice, relaxing night, somewhat. Tomorrow's Derby Day, but this podcast is my nice outlet to distract myself.
Yeah, I just have to work in the morning, so
that sucks.
Oh yeah, we're just living in a COVID world at work, right. So it's fun. Yeah.
Have you didn't your bank have someone with COVID?
I wouldn't say we don't know if they had COVID, but we've had a few sick people walk through here in the last couple weeks.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's fun.
Uh-oh.
They've been pretty far away from me, so we'll see how the next 10 days goes.
Oh man, I still think I've had it. I think I got it from the Classic and didn't realize it till it became a thing.
I think everyone got it at the Classic.
Yeah, probably. But enough talk about COVID. We're gonna get on Mr. Mark Rose here. How we doing, Mark?
Good, guys. How are y'all?
Yeah,
doing good. Doing great. It's Derby Day.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited to talk to you, and it's gonna be a fun night. But
yeah,
were you one of the? Heck yeah! Were you one of the ones burdened with the COVID? Were you one of the unlucky ones who contracted the COVID?
No. I mean, I'm like y'all. I probably had it, but you never really know. The whole family's probably had it, but life goes on.
Yeah.
Right.
we either keep living or die. So it's one or the other.
Don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, 2021 could be. Yeah.
Well, we're almost in 2021, so let's hope 2021 turns out to be good. No roadblocks or anything. So
yeah, what a wild 2020.
Been
good though.
I saw some. I think it was a TikTok. It's a video of a guy who tries to make a comedy relief to all these disasters, and he was saying how I think it was Jesus or something said, so did you spread out those disasters over the next 20 years? And he goes, oh, you didn't mean to schedule them all for 2020 along those lines? And it was really funny along those lines, but I thoroughly
we've had some bad times and all that, and a lot of bad with the election and COVID, and a lot of other things went on. But I tell you what, guys, we also got a lot to be thankful for.
Heck yeah,
we really do.
100%.
We tend to cover that up with all the bad sometimes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because now whether the news or social media, all you see is negative, and there's not a lot of positive being spread around when there's a whole lot of it. That's for sure.
That's right. We got a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah. If you can go fishing, you can go hunting, there's a lot to be thankful for.
I love this time of year, man. Just Thanksgiving and Christmas, what they mean, the meaning of family and having some time to unwind a little bit. Sounds like some kayak stuff still going on, but our Major League Fishing is over. I think bass schedule is over. They may be at an open right now, I think, at Louisville, but it's all just about over. And man, just to have some time to unwind and set up in a tree, and it's my medicine. It really is. It's how I charge my batteries.
Heck yeah! Those 5:30 a.m.s, getting in the tree stand, watching the sun come up, watching everything come to life.
I know
it's amazing. Yeah, 100%.
Yep, it really is.
Yeah. Well, Mark, before I get into my first question for you, I failed to mention our first giveaway winner when I was talking to Andrew here. We wanted to give away the Serious Angler Package winner first before we get into the depth of the podcast, and that's some free Serious Angler merch, long sleeve. It's going to win a hat as well. And our winner is here, his name wasn't in his profile for the winner, but his username on Instagram is RoundhillMark. So RoundhillMark, reach out to us over Serious Angler on Instagram and get your contact information, and we'll get you some Serious Angler swag. Again, guys, we're going to be giving away a bunch of prizes throughout the show. So make sure you guys are commenting questions and getting some engagement here. But, Mark, my first question for you is before we get deep into the podcast here is, what was that first bass fishing? What was that first catch like? That first bass you caught? Who got you into fishing? What's that whole story?
Well, actually, it was an uncle of mine. I spent, from the time I was 2 or 3 years old, my granddad got me into the outdoors and kind of had me out in a John boat ever since I was 2 or 3 years old. But he was a commercial fisherman. We caught carp, buffalo, catfish, all the commercial fish. And if he caught a bass, he would just immediately throw it out. It was like a piece of trash to him. It wasn't any money, so it was nothing to him. And so that got me in love with the outdoors. And then my dad started introducing me into more bluegill fishing, crappie fishing, that type of thing. He never was a bass fisherman, but my uncle, I remember it very well. I was in like the 7th or 8th grade, and I'd never been in a fast boat before, just 9.9s, 25 horse, about the biggest I'd ever been in. So I went with him. All I remember is we went real fast, faster than I'd ever been. We stopped. We threw a buzz bait. I caught about a 3-pounder on a buzz bait, which I got to see the explosion, all that. It was around a willow tree and some flooded stuff on the White River bottoms. I remember that. And then we went fast again, and then I caught some more topwater fish, and then we went fast some more, and I was like, yeah, this is where it's at. I love this, because I'm usually out there on my knees on an aluminum boat pulling up these big heavy nets, and I got turtles and I got gar and I got everything. I got slime all over all day long. I did that with my granddad. And so to be able to enjoy the sport of fishing with sport fish was that was my first, I guess, time that I did it, and where I really fell in love with. I played baseball all through high school and college, and so I was an athlete. I was competitive, and then to see that going fast, catching fish, topwater, going fast, that was where it was at for me.
Heck yeah! So
when
there's
nothing better than going fast in a bass boat.
Oh,
nothing better.
I was in like the 7th grade. I'd never been that fast before, except on my bicycle. That was awesome.
It was like 4 times as fast as the bicycle.
I know. And out in my environment where I love it, going on the water. It was just it was an amazing experience, and one that I truly believe the Lord put that moment inside, presented me with that opportunity just to create that passion that I have for the sport.
Heck yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, my first time ever in a bass boat was life-changing, and unfortunately, I'm still in the kayak. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, I'm still in the kayak. It's definitely helped me to be the angler I am today, but I still 100% want to get into the bass boat. It was a life-changing experience, but it is. But, Mark, we already have a question for you here in the comment section, and this is from Chris Flay. I'll put it up here on the screen for you. And he asks, what is your opinion about forward-facing sonar units, good or bad for future tournaments? Which is a topic we talked about last podcast as well.
Yeah, with Derek.
Yeah. Well, I don't see it being any more advancing the sport than trolling motors, uh, sonar, 2D, side scan,
Right.
anything. It's just the same thing. Just
Just
moving
another
forward.
tool.
Yeah, it's just another tool. And if it gets to the point to where it starts telling you how big they are and where they're at, and seeing them swim off and seeing them, that's if we start getting 200 feet out there and we can see every movement, every scale on the fish like we're watching TV. That's one thing. But right now, guys, you still have to go out there. You still have to catch them. You still have to read the water. You still have to read the conditions, read the weather, water clarity, pick out the lure, pick out the cut, all that. You still have to trigger that strike. So it's just another tool at this point.
Right. Now,
and a good one. I think, I know a lot of guys around here that I crappie fish. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm an avid crappie fisherman. I absolutely love it. There's guys around here that just fish, occasionally 4 or 5 times a year. And now they're going out and buying boats, buying electronics, buying fishing rods, buying fishing line. And that's not doing anything but helping you guys, helping me, helping the entire industry to grow. And so, yeah, I think it's introducing a lot. It's kind of like the Alabama rig. You can have your opinions on it, but it introduced a lot of people to fishing. And and it's a phase. It's as this will be. It'll be outdated, kind of like a Commodore 64 computer and everything. It'll have its
every
time.
12 months.
Something. Yeah. They're already. I mean, every company now is already coming out with something the generation next of it. So, yeah.
Right. So you're known for being a ledge fisherman. I'm curious, in your opinion, what would be more advantageous to you if you had to pick one, like a live scope versus like a 360? What would be your, if you could only choose one that would help you fishing a ledge, which one would you pick?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those. That's like asking me if you were on death row and you could choose vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream for your last milkshake. Which one would you choose? No. In all seriousness, I use them. I use them hand in hand. I really do. I don't know which one. I get to see a little bit farther out in front of me and see the hard cover and see what is fixing to come up with the 360. And then when I need to zero in on that, I get to use my live scope and really get into detail and see where the fish are. But I would not scan over there a lot of instances had it not been for the beam on a 360 where I see something coming up that I need to point to and look at. So it's like looking out your windshield at night driving down the road. You want to see what's way up there for caution and to see cars coming way up there to know that something is coming. Like if you're texting riding down the road and a car is coming up there, that's be a time when you might want to put the phone down and stop texting. And it's the same way with fishing. It shows you what's way up there, and then as it gets closer, I start using more of the forward-facing sonar. So, man, I literally cannot choose one now. I used to could, but now I have to have both.
Understood.
So now that we're using both, would you rather use both with smallmouth or largemouth?
Probably anytime I can choose smallmouth, I would choose smallmouth, just simply because they're easier to catch. They're more aggressive. They're
fun.
They're fun. I don't get to catch.
Oh, got a little service issue there, I think.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
He warned us about this. Uh-oh.
Might have to remove them and bring them back in real fast. Uh-oh. We got a black screen.
Oh, no.
Hey, Mark, if you can hear us, try backing out and then coming back in real fast.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think that connection's getting to him.
Yeah, could be.
He warned us. He warned us about the connection where he's at. Let's see.
Technology.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. There you go. I think he understood it now. We got some good questions coming in. Keep those rolling in.
Yeah. Bring them in.
Another good question. Jack Kleiman asked another great question. When we can get Mark back in here, we'll be sure to ask him those questions for sure.
Good old technology issues. But side note, it seems like all these guys from down south love coming up here to smallmouth fish.
Heck yeah.
It's awesome.
Actually, this question from Jake here, I really like. And I'm going to award Jake the custom Douglas Serious Angler hat. So that's going to go to Jake Stem once we can get Mark Rose back in here. But Jake, shoot me a message. We're going to get that hat sent out to you. But this is a great question, and I think Mark's thoroughly going to enjoy as well.
Yes. Congrats.
Yeah, our first winner, the Serious Angler custom Douglas hat. And obviously everyone knows
one of a kind.
Yeah, it is one of a kind. It is this one. Actually, no, it is the gray one. Do you have that one nearby you? I think that
Mine is in the bottom of Lake Erie.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you I forgot you lost that.
LFA in the house.
What's going on, Jeff? I love that name's catching on.
So great.
We might have to get Mike here to help Mark join back in. Let's see.
Congrats, Jake. I appreciate the woo there.
Heck
Man,
yeah.
So let's reverb here for a second. Tournament Sunday. I think I'm going to jump in at Canisius Lake.
Right.
It's going to be 41 degrees, no wind, but between launch at 7:30 till noon, the high is 30. With a chance of snow.
Oh,
there you are. Welcome back.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yep, we can hear you now.
All right, I'm just going to walk around my house. I live out in the sticks. Y'all just going to have to excuse me. But I'm trying to find a good spot in here.
No worries, man.
It happens.
You warned us. We're okay with it. But we had a giveaway.
We got a really good question from Jack here.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jake Stem asks a good question, and we picked Jake for the Douglas giveaway winner. He won a custom Douglas hat, and he said, if you had any tips or advice for your younger self first getting into the industry, what would it be?
Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Freeze frame.
Mark's becoming a magician on us.
He's going straight Houdini.
It's like one of those Zoom calls where you see those college kids that put the freeze frame up for the.
Oh, man. Good old technology.
That's funny. We got Lance Owen in the house, another Douglas guy. What's going on, Lance?
Another good question, too.
Yeah. Very good question.
I'll answer that one. I know it's for Mark, but my favorite way to catch them in the fall, honestly, is any way I can catch them, because you can catch them any way if you find the right bite at the right time. But 100% I've fallen in love this year with catching them on a blade bait. That is so much fun.
Blade bait or rig? Rig's a lot of fun. But Lance, I think Mark is going to probably answer something to do with crappie, seeing as he said he fishes for crappie all winter, not for bass. So if you're looking for a bass answer, you might not get one. But it sounds like dude, haven't you guys all caught crappie this week? You caught crappie today. Yeah. We've caught some giant crappie down here at Chick.
Did you throw them in the cooler? Those are some good eats right there.
I wish. We all good, Mark?
Third time's the charm.
Yeah. We're getting there.
I hope so, man. Sorry about that.
It's
No,
all right.
no worries.
We'll
No
go
worries.
back to Jake's question here.
Yeah. So did you hear Jake's question?
I got it. And guys, I hate to just go right into my faith on this, but it's me. It's who I am. And if you want to know Mark Rose, and for me to answer straight from the heart, it would be get to know the man that made all the fish, probably as much as you can. Spend as much time with him, and because let me tell you something about fishing. It's hard. It's you're gonna lose a lot more than you're gonna win. And there's going to be a lot of time when you're going to have close calls. There's going to be a lot of times you're going to miss a check by an ounce or 2 ounces or whatever. And as you're entering into the sport and that's what you need. You need the money. You need the point.
Bing.
Oh no. We were doing so good. it's like he comes back and then it's great and then it
Ready?
drops.
Cut. I feel like we're in like a trial here per movie.
I know. We're getting them in spurts. Uh-oh. Justin in the house. What's going on, guys? See, Jack Kleiman had a good question too, and he said, "What do you think the biggest advantage that younger pros have, and on the other hand, where do you think veterans have the upper hand?" And obviously, I'm not a veteran, but in my opinion, I think how quick younger pros can adapt to new technology. I think that's the biggest upper hand that a younger pro would have. What do you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. It's technology. They understand the little nuances of everything because they put all of their time and effort into it. But where upper veterans have the upper hand is the savviness. They know, okay, today it's blowing west at 12, tomorrow it's blowing east at 10. The savvy veteran can go out and figure out where those fish are going to position based on the wind out in the areas they're fishing. And the younger pros know how to read the technology thing, but they may not be able to set up where the fish are every day. And I think that's sometimes where you see those big swings, like a younger guy will come out and blast 25 and the weather conditions will change and they'll weigh in 8 pounds for 2 fish. That's because they don't quite have the experience to adapt to the changing conditions that some of those savvy veterans have.
Maybe too reliant on electronics is what you're saying.
Too reliant on the technology as opposed to having that full-on experience. If you watch, a Kevin Van Dam fish, that guy, as soon as something is off, he's moving. A young guy will be like, no, I know they're here. I'm going to trust my gut, fish on the electronics, and try to catch them. When they're still in that area, but they may have moved 5 feet and are positioned a different way based on the way the wind is blowing, and you're just blowing right over them. So
That's very true. Mark's joining back in here. All right. Fourth time's
All right, I'm out on my back porch now. So I'm trying to get every wavelength that I can possibly get.
We're getting a grand tour of the Mark Estate here. We appreciate it.
Sorry about that, guys.
It happens.
No worries.
But did you get the gist of kind of what that answer? You're going to need to rely on something. You're going to need to lean on something, and you don't need to have a teddy bear in the boat or truck with you. So you need to. For me, I rely on my faith, and that really gets me through, and it got me through the early years of trying to build a career and get started. And the Bible tells us that when we put Him first. My life verse is Matthew 6:33, and it reads, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." And these things in that day and time when that was written was they were worried about the simple things of life. Well, as a fisherman, we worry about getting a check, getting a sponsor, being able to sustain our career. And and things like that. So he tells us that when we put him first, he'll take care of us, and he doesn't just tell us that; it's a promise. So I have seen it in my life, and that's the best piece of advice that I can pass on to a young angler getting started.
Heck yeah. Mark, we had a really good question come in here from Jeff Hippert. He's known around our parts as El Jefe, but
Or Jeff Buffalo.
he has many nicknames. But basically, he asked, I'll put it up on the screen. You're a ledge hammer, and his question to you is how, out of having miles and miles of ledges, how do you find key areas?
You got to look for anything different. You got to look for a straight Tennessee river ledge. There will be some fish on it. There will be some fish scattered up and down it. But if you can find where a creek comes into the river ledge, or if you can find a big stump or a group of stumps or a mussel bed or things like that that are different, it's the same way. Think of it as if you were going out in your yard and you had a wide open yard and you needed to hide an Easter egg. Where would you hide it? You're going to look for any kind of little bitty something, and that's I guess that's the best visual that I can give you. If a bass is going to hide in a wide open, vast something, he's going to hide behind a hard piece of cover. It may just be dark. You can relate that to some smallmouth habitat. If you go out on, say, a St. Clair or something that it's wide open, and then you have a little bit darker patch of sand, or you have a patch of grass mixed in with that sand or a rock or what have you, just look for basically something different. Maybe a bottom contour, maybe a bottom composition. It may be something, but something that will be different.
Nice. That's great. We have another question here from James Barron, and he asks, what do you think about cone cut hooks versus cutting point hooks?
I've never really experienced much with the surgical, cutting type with, say, a trocar or an owner. I've been with Mustad a long time, and I just have gotten used to the needle point. But I'm not going to sit here and give you a Mustad commercial. I mean, it is a great hook, and I've had a lot of success with it, and so has people like Kevin Van Dam and Jacob Rosnick and a lot of people. However, there's other hooks that I do know that early on I was punching with some of the surgically sharpened like a trocar type hook, and I was ripping bigger holes in the fit, and I did lose some fish, but that could have been a weird instance or just the way that particular hook set was or something like that. So man, they're like trucks. They all build a pretty good one nowadays. Everybody has their preferences and bass boats and vehicles and what have you, but they all build a pretty good hook nowadays.
So one thing I can credit Mustad here is you see a lot of tungsten jigs poured with Mustad hooks because it seems like they're a little bit more heat resilient than some of these finer like cutting point hooks. They're not as brittle, so they don't break as easily when they're super heated.
That's absolutely right. I've heard a lot of horror stories of crankbaits and jerkbaits and a lot of machine sharpened hooks that simply break, and you don't see that a lot with the tempered hook from a Mustad. Or another thing is a lot of the needle type points that you see on some hooks when you're around mussel beds and shell rock and things like that, bluffs, they will roll on you. And a Mustad needle point will hardly ever roll on you. You can get it in enough junk to dull it a little, but it's not gonna but it takes a lot, and you can sharpen them pretty easy. But a lot of those really needle type point hooks from other manufacturers, they will roll on you. That's when some key fish that I've lost in my career early on. I remember just checking my hook and the tip was actually rolled in. So that happens a lot.
I personally, I've seen this shouldn't say argument, more of a debate around the internet. And it's definitely an interesting one. There's a lot of the stuff about the whole cutting point, right? Of blowing a hole through its mouth and losing fish. It's an interesting debate because there's so many different takes on it. But I think with that one, I'm going to award the Queen Tackle giveaway to James Barron for that question. I really like that one. So, James, reach out to us or get your information, get you some Queen Tackle jigs sent your way, which do have must-add
hooks.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I don't. The reason I don't know much about that was because I don't use any other hook. it's I don't use a cutting point, so I don't have a lot of experience with it.
Okay.
Awesome.
We have a question here from Daniel Perry, and he asks, when do you choose a scrounger over other baits when fishing offshore?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. I remember when the swim bait, we really started fishing swim baits offshore on ledges. And I remember my buddy Randy Haynes got in the boat with me one day, and we had begun talking about how those suspended fish that were high in the water column that we could see were just really, our crankbaits were rolling underneath them, and top water, we really couldn't get them to come up, and jerk baits, the water was a little warm. They weren't reacting to a jerk bait. And I began playing with a paddle tail bass trick swim bait. And man, it was like a light switch. And so for a long time, we were throwing 3/4, half to 1 ounce, mostly 3/4 ledge heads on various different paddle tail swim baits. And it was something that we could fish it in any water column. We could fish them up high. I can remember a lot of tournaments where one very specifically, vividly in my mind, was at Gunnersville, and Wesley Strader came up to me, and he just kind of shaking his head. What you're reeling that thing fast and holding your rod tip up high, and you're sitting in 20-foot of water. And there was the biggest school of bass I'd ever seen in my life, and they were only like 5 feet under the surface, and I was out deep on a ledge, and I was fishing it real high in the water column. I think Justin Lucas won that. It was like an ever start several years ago, and I think that was his first win of that caliber. And yeah, so the swim bait had its little phase, and then shortly after that, the scrounger came along, and yeah, I remember going to Chickamauga and trying it one time and just absolutely killing them on that tournament that Casey Martin won. I think he was throwing an Alabama. No, he wasn't throwing an Alabama. He was throwing like a chandelier. That thing was like big as a tire. But
it's got like 10 extensions on it.
Oh yeah, it had like 15 wires and jewelry and there was a bait mixed in there in the middle somewhere, but a lot of flash.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but a scrounger was that was the first tournament that I really, and then I started fishing it more, and it was just that slower. It's kind of like they seen the swim bait so much that something that was vibrating instead of a tail wagging triggered another wave of strike. It's kind of like the Alabama rig, the swim bait, and then you have to do something a little bit different than a swim bait, and then you have to do something a little bit different from that, and so on and so forth. So the scrounger now is not as effective as it was on the Tennessee River. However, it still is a tool. And I tell people, man, sometimes you just got to run the gamut. You got to throw a hair jig, throw a big worm, throw a football jig, throw a spoon, and I can sit here as long as y'all want to about everything that I have tied on my deck, little tricked out stuff, and 10 different swim baits, 10 different jigs and stroking jigs and all that kind of stuff. But the scrounger is just another tool. It's not magic, although at times it will catch you a great big fish, and it just triggers a little bit different one. If you're catching them one right after the other on a paddle tail swim bait and they stop and you pick up a scrounger, a lot of times you might either catch a giant fish or catch you 2 or 3 more to keep things going.
Heck yeah. That's a really good question. Let's see here. We have another question from Chris Flay. He asked, do you think it's harder for a southern angler to fish tournaments in the north or northern anglers fishing tournaments in the south?
Man, that's a really good question. I
It
mean,
is.
that's got me thinking. You need to give that guy a jersey, man. That's
Heck
that's my
yeah.
question.
Woo!
That's my question of the
Hey.
night right there. When
It's
you
loaded.
stump a 22-year veteran, that's a good question. But I'm not saying I'm stumped. I will come up with an answer. But I do have to pause and think about it a minute. I've never had that question. Um, I would have to think that it would probably be a northern angler coming south, simply because a lot of man, I'm going to change my answer. It would have to be a southern angler going up because I just sat here and thought about that just a minute. The diversity that a northern angler has. He's got rivers, he's got grass, he's got muddy water, he's got Great Lakes northern smallmouth, he's got small lake smallmouth, and so the grass and everything. Whereas a southern angler, you don't have a lot of the smallmouth habitat that you have in the vast grassy flats that a St. Clair or something like that has.
Right.
And you really, a lot of times, you're more focused on the habits and everything of a largemouth, and you really have to. I say all that, and then it would be tough for a northern guy to go to Okeechobee and fish as slow as sometimes you have to fish a worm down there, and
Right.
how June bug is just a dominant color down there, and he might not know that unless, well, he would if he's read anything or watched anything at all about bass fishing.
June
So,
bug speedworm.
yeah. So, you know, I I think it's almost a tie, but I would have to lean towards it would be tougher for a southern guy going up north.
I would agree with that. Just because northern guys, I mean, there are some lakes where you can kind of essentially they kind of set up on areas that are kind of like ledges, and that's probably one of the biggest differences. Besides, the Okeechobee one you mentioned, but like down south there, like you said, there really isn't a lake or a body of water that sets up like say like a Great Lakes smallmouth fishery. That's
Exactly.
different. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a great point.
The only thing that is would be really different in my mind that I see would be a northern guy going to a shallow body of water like Okeechobee and learning how the if the wind blows out of the north, that's a cold front for a Florida string bass. So if you get a drop in temperature, that northern guy is going to be like, man, they're going to be biting today. And if
Yeah.
the water temperature is like 60 degrees, they're just loving it. However, those bass are not. So it would be hard for them to get used to how much to slow down.
Right.
Fair enough.
Congratulations to Chris Flay.
But
Be
yeah.
sure to reach out to us. We'll get your information and get you hooked up with a Mark Rose signed jersey. So congratulations.
Great question.
Very good question. We got a couple things up for grabs still. We still have Morgan Marine and Anglers, so make sure you guys are still commenting your questions. And we got another good one here from James Barron that says, what are the clues or conditions that tell you to fish bottom baits or running a bait over the top of them?
Probably just looking at your electronics and reading. Every time, and now especially with forward-facing sonar, but even before we had it, we idled over places. I would never stop the past probably 10 years or since 2000, say 9, fishing offshore. I would never even make a cast without idling it first. And you get to see how fish are set up. You get to see if they're high in the water column, if they're tucked down deep to the bottom. And if they're tucked down deep to the bottom, I would spin around and the first rod I would pick up would be a football jig. If I kind of seen them up high in the water column, I would kind of lean more towards probably a swim bait or a spoon to get, up. And then there are times, believe it or not, on ledges when the first bait I would pick up would be a topwater. And that would be fish that I would see they're real scattered and they're kind of chasing. I'm seeing them high and scattered out, and that just kind of lets me, or noodles or spaghetti noodles that a lot of people relate to them different things, but I just look at them as, okay, how would I catch that fish? And more times than not, I can, make a good conscious effort on the first bait to pick, and a lot of times I'll pick up a top water. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
it's the entire water column, and it's more about reading the fish with your electronics and knowing what to throw.
That's great. Awesome answer. Jack Kleinman asked, what do you think the next mainstream lure will be, and what are you excited to fish more this upcoming year?
And real quick, Jack, this is Jack's second good question of the night. The first one I kind of answered, and me and Bailey went through. He is going to win the Angler Bullseye just for getting in two really good questions. So congrats, Jack. And Mark, take it away.
Did y'all give him a good answer?
I think we did.
Okay.
I got faith.
I got faith in you guys. So the next wave, man, that's hard to say. There hasn't really been anything come along other than the vibrating jig is, with Major League Fishing and how weigh all you can catch. It's been about numbers and speed and covering a lot of water and everything. So swim jigs, vibrating jigs, I don't guess there's been a lure in the past 3 to 4 years that's we've seen catch any more fish than a vibrating jig.
So versatile.
It's versatile. I even fish it out on ledges a lot. Put like a Z2 or your favorite soft plastic jerk bait on it, and just take the skirt off. Throw like a 3/4 ounce size. Put it on like a 15-pound line, maybe a size or two smaller than you'd normally throw it, and fish it out on deep ledges. And it's just another, gamut lure that you need to run. But having said all that, I haven't seen anything in the last year or coming up from ICAST that, there's a lot of Japanese rigs with the weights distributed on the bottom and different setups and things like that. But just, man, it would be hard to say a new lure that's just going to change things in 2021. I think just versatility of anglers and the electronics now is things like that is a more bigger factor than lure, because when you see them out there, you can find something that's made now to catch them. It's not like an umbrella rig that's just, it turns a average fisherman into a great fisherman. I haven't seen anything like that come along lately.
One bait for smallmouth guys that has made everyone really good, I think we can all attest to this, is a flatworm.
Yeah. That I don't think that has really anything to do with that worm. I think that there is something that they have figured out to that scent, and because it's no different than
Striking dream shot,
a dream shot, or
a crosstail shad
shape worm, any of that kind of stuff. It's really, you add that scent to any of them, and you might be able to catch them just as good. So yeah, maybe they need to just start bottling that stuff up, and we can put it on anything. They're not going to do that. They're smart.
No.
They're way
They're a little smarter than
that. Yeah.
That's funny. We have another question here from Kevin Phipps, and he asks, when you mark fish holding on the bottom, can't get bit, do you move on, change lures, presentations, colors? How do you approach fish that are set up that you can't catch, but they're bass?
Yeah, one cast, and I'm seeing them. Nah, we're not leaving yet. We're fixed. we're going into the rod locker several times before we leave. Man, I know it sounds simple, but basic old shaky head is going to be my bait. That shaky head and drop shot and Nico. One of those three, I'm going to throw all three of them before I leave a spot, because a lot of times all you got to do is catch one. I use kind of the illustration of, say, a watering hole out in the desert, bunch of cheetahs or whatever lines, and they're all laying around, not in really a active mood. And then you see, one gazelle that's kind of injured, kind of running through the middle of them and taking off, or maybe it's a gazelle just getting a little bit too close to one of them and going and getting a drink of water, and he kind of changed it. He's like, "You're really gonna do that, and you're gonna get that close to me and tempt me like this, and it'll change his mood." So a lot of times, if you can just catch one and change the overall mood of that whole school of fish, you can sit there and catch them lights out. Case in point, I just shot a Strike King television show not too long ago. It'll be airing fairly soon, and you're going to see me read that exact scenario that the question was just asked about. And I couldn't catch them. I literally had a deck full of offshore baits. I had fished this body of water. I'm kind of back in an area where I know that they pile up, and I can see them, and I could not catch them for anything. And
dang fish.
I know. I can think of a lot other things to say, but yeah, I picked up a Strike King bullworm, and I worked it real slow. Had it on like a 3/16 ounce weight, and those fish were 15 foot deep. And I got one bite. Dick. I set the hook. It was about 1.5 pound fish. And this is no lie, guys. Right after that, I didn't even make another cast with the worm. I picked up a 5XD, and I caught them till the cows came home, including an 8, a 7.
Light switch.
It was just like that, but it was taking something slow and subtle. I've had times on the Tennessee River where I see these fish down there, and they're 20 foot deep, and I'll pick up a 1/16 ounce shaky head on 8 pound line, and I want it kind of slow falling down, and so they're looking at it, and it just tempts one into biting it. And because so many times we just see stuff just fall real fast right in front of them, but you throw a 1/4 ounce shaky head or a 3/16, and so yeah, it's just something like that, or maybe a really light drop shot, subtle worm, a morning dawn, dream shot, anything like that. And once you trigger one, you can usually get them going. But those three, Nico rig, shaky head, or drop shot, one of those three will usually get you bit.
Now, and in retrospect to that, how many times have you not gotten them to bite on like that low, slow falling bait, and you went heavier and just like dropped a bomb on them, and they reacted to it and ate that way?
Okay. Case in point, one of the FLW tour events that I won, on day 2 of that event, I killed them day 1. And day 2 of that event, I've got just a mediocre bag, maybe 15, 16 pounds. And I knew that probably wasn't going to do enough to keep me in the lead. And I was a little bit bummed out. And I stopped on the one little spot on the way in. I had about 15 minutes to fish. And I was throwing a crankbait, and all of a sudden, I just looked down, and they had moved out, and where I was kind of a little bit too close on my boat. Well, with my 2D, I could see about 4 or 5 arches right below me. So I pick up just a little vertical 1/2 ounce lead jigging spoon, and I tried to bounce those. I literally wanted to hit them and change it, because they were just sitting out there. So I call that kind of soling up, and they weren't up there moving. Up on top of the shelf where they should be feeding. They were out there down at the toe of the ledge, just sitting down there on the bottom and just sold up. So I was going to try to jerk one of them and hit him and see if I could get him to react. And I just kept jerking, and I really believed that I hit one of these fish, and I caught a 5 pounder, dropped right back down there, caught like a 6 pounder, and I culled like a 2.5 and a 3. And that made all the difference
awesome
in the world in me winning that tournament. Those two, that was a lot of weight that I gained right there, and all because I just saw those fish. I didn't like the mood they were in. They were making me mad because they weren't up where they were supposed to be, and I literally wanted to hit them in the head with my jigging spoon and try to get them to swim around and change their mood, and they actually bit it. So
it's awesome.
That's Kevin just sparked a really good conversation there. So, Kevin, you're going to be the winner of our last giveaway here, the Morgue Marine bait sacks that we're giving out. So, great job to Kevin. That's a really good conversation because I feel like a lot of people see fish set up, and I feel like they're pretty quick to leave without trying various different presentations or even something simple as just changing your angle of how you're casting at them. You could be just sitting up on them wrong. So I think that's really good. Give them time.
If you go to a deer stand and there's a wasp nest and wasps are swirling around your deer stand and you really want to go hunting, you're not going to just kind of let those wasps take over. You're going to hit them. And sometimes with a bass, if they're making you mad,
just hit them.
They're annoying you. Hit them. Try to hit them with something.
Especially spawners.
If they're just going to sit there, hit the crap out of them. Get them to move.
Just don't hit them like Mike Long.
Don't hit them like Mike Long.
Smack them around a little bit.
Show them a little love. That's all.
But when you say smack them around a little bit, I can't tell you how many spawning fish I've caught Texas rigging. I'll purposely cast towards their tail and just kind of tick their tail and they'll spin right around on it and nose right down. But you have to know the perfect point when to do that because you could scoot them off to bed too.
Yeah. Very rarely will you ever, if you've pitching in there 2 or 3 times and that fish is still there, very rarely will you ever be able to make that fish leave.
Yeah.
But you can make him mad.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah. 100%. Let's see. We'll have one more question from the fans here for you, and then we'll have a couple more questions ourselves to wrap things up here in a little bit. But from Gabriel, and I apologize ahead of time. I don't know if I could. I'm gonna try to attempt this.
I'm gonna say Barraclough tan.
Yeah, Barraclough. Yeah, I think that's how you. I'm not even gonna attempt it. I'm gonna go with what Andy said. So you can tell us in the comments how bad we might have done. But their question was: in a tournament, you're from practice. You found an area that has fish. When do you decide to move on from a spot where you have found those fish? And what is your mindset when leaving them? Say they're not biting or maybe they've moved. What's your mindset moving on from there?
Yeah, that's the $10 million question a lot of times on ledge fishing is if I've probably gotten one question asked to me more, and it's because it's an interesting question and it's a tough one. It's when to move, when to go, when to finally pull the plug on them, and it's a hard one for me to answer, but I guess my best answer would be when I really feel like that I have exhausted my efforts with baits, and that doesn't take long. I mean, you're going to throw a bottom bait, you're going to throw a suspending bait, you're going to throw something a little higher in the water column, and then you're going to go finesse, and then you're going to go maybe something really heavy, get over the top of them. Once you've done that, I had a co-angler ask me, not too long ago, we were in a situation like that, and they said, "What are we going to do to catch these fish?" And I'm like, "We're not going to. We're fixing to pull the plug. We're leaving." Best thing to do sometimes
is just leave.
Is clear your head, because there's going to be times where you're going to want to sit there and don't want anybody else to come along. Who cares if somebody comes along? You done tried everything to catch them. If they're not biting, get out of there. You just got to do, and you'll clear your mind, and you'll go and you'll find you something else and get things going back again. That's not to say you can't come back and try those fish an hour later, and they might be in a different mood, especially on a current generated body of water like the Tennessee River. There's been so many times where I've started on a hole and didn't catch them, leave, come back towards the end of the day and just absolutely load the boat right there. So sometimes you just got to get away from them.
Right. That's great. Awesome. Andy, do you have anything left for Mark here before we let him go?
Man, I think our viewers tonight asked some really dynamite questions, so props to them.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning into that. And Andy, if you don't have any questions yourself for Mark, I'm going to hit him with the last question of the night.
Man, I almost don't think I could ask a better question than most of these people ask. So, I mean, kudos to them. Shout out to all the winners, too.
Yeah.
Great
very
question.
good question. 100%. So, Mark, our last question for you is one we like to ask everybody who's new to the show. And that question is, if you could sit down, have a nice steak, let's say in your case, you shot a big buck last week. So we'll say some venison steaks, some nice back straps.
Yeah.
And you want to invite 3 different people to come sit down with you, and you're going to pick their brain. They can either be alive currently, alive 400 years ago. They don't even have to be fishing industry. What 3 people are you going to invite to eat those steaks with you?
About bass fishing.
Doesn't have to be bass fishing. It can be
Okay.
anything.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow.
I love the response every time. It's wow, loaded, or wow, like I can't believe you asked you that.
I wish I had some time to think about it.
That's why
Bass
it's on the
fishing,
spot.
bass fishing, it's pretty simple. I am a Mark Davis fan, and I'm going to explain why. Mark Davis grew up fishing, and he made his living fishing. And when the fish weren't biting, he would not get paid and wouldn't be able to pay his bills. So Mark was a guide. He had to spend a lot of time, and he's an old hillbilly, which I kind of like. He's a pretty
Fair
daggum good cook, and so yeah. These girls keep sending me texts, and I'm having to swipe them off the screen. Mark is he's just an interesting guy. He probably understands bass movement and how a bass migrates around and why what they feed on. Clearwater, growing up in the mountains over there in the Ouachita Mountains, he's been in every type of situation. So bass fishing wise, I never sit down with Mark Davis and don't learn something. So he would definitely be one. One would probably be Kevin, and Kevin is he's a very interesting guy, and he's open. He's not a guy that will shun you. He's very easy to talk to. People don't realize that about him a lot of times, but he's a very soft-hearted guy, and he cares a lot about this industry. Cares a lot about the fans and the youth of the sport and things like that. So, and he's seen so much, and to learn a lot about the business side of the sport and the way things are moving and things like that, Kevin would have to be in the conversation. And I'm just going to keep it all bass fishing and throw a Greg Hackney in there because he's got the memory like an elephant. I mean, he can remember a fish that blew up in Star City, Arkansas on a frog when he was 3 years old, and why and how, and he's just so in detail. Greg is he understands. He's kind of like Mark in that regard, and he's just really detail oriented. He's very smart and knowledgeable about the outdoors. He can tell you more about a muskrat and a beaver and a duck and an elephant and a zebra and a crocodile. I mean, he knows something about everything. He watches all them goofy outdoor sports shows, National Geographic type stuff, and he can tell you why a baboon does what it does. That's Greg Hackney. So he's a very interesting outdoorsman, to say the least. So I'm going to keep it real and say Mark Davis, Kevin Van Dam, and Greg Hackney.
I feel like that'd be a great like place setting. I think if I remember correctly too, all of you guys are Strike King as well, right?
Yeah. I that's one reason why I know all those guys probably better than others, but they're interesting dudes, man. You would learn a lot with those 3.
Oh, for sure.
There's other guys that I could throw
Heck
in the meeting. I might not learn very much. I do a lot of laughing, but there's a lot of people I could throw in there. But those are the guys that I really have a lot of respect for their knowledge of the outdoors.
Awesome.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Well, Mark, we want to say thank you
Yeah, thank you.
for taking the time out of your night to hop on the show. We really do appreciate it. And you're always welcome. I know the fans enjoyed it. And we wish you well. And hopefully your crappie fishing is going to be pretty good here soon.
You bet. Good luck,
Good
guys.
luck for 2021.
Thanks a lot. Good luck in your tournament tomorrow. And thanks to all the fans for reading in. And God bless y'all.
You as well, my friend.
Heck yeah.
All right, guys.
Take care,
Y'all
Mark.
care.
And
I'm going to go finish my supper.
Enjoy.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Awesome.
What a good dude.
Awesome.
That was an absolute blast. Man, I'm getting glitchy over here. A huge shout out to everybody who just tuned in. We had a lot of comments coming through, so that was an absolute blast. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining in. It meant a lot to us, meant a lot to Mark. And tonight was a fun show. Congratulations to all the winners. We'll be getting that stuff out to you soon. Reach out to us on social media so we can get your address to ship them. And again, congratulations to all the winners. Andy, that was a fun one, dude.
Awesome. That's all I gotta say is thank you to everyone.
I don't know about
tuning
you.
In.
Yeah. Our partners, our show partners, all appreciate it. We appreciate it. Mark appreciates it. So I need to go hop in the shower and get ready for Chickamauga tomorrow.
Yeah, you
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, Zach said he can smell me from over here.
Dude, I can smell you all the way up here, and I'm 1,000 miles away. Good gravy.
Get out of here. Well, we're going to keep this short, but congratulations again to all the winners. We're going to have another Monday Night Live. We have not decided who's going to be on the show just yet. We might even do a Q&A. We're going to bounce some ideas back and forth. And either way, we'll see you guys on Monday night. As always, thank you guys for watching and listening. See you guys next time.